Today is November. Good Lord, it's November 4th. Been a minute since I spoke to the camera, but luckily I'm posting so late, everything should flow together. A topic that has been on my mind that is of great importance, particularly in this post-COVID world, and as I continue through Mark Passio's work, as I'm now roughly in the year 2016, episode 190-something. And that is this idea of a partial awakening that people may be experiencing. And the reason it's so dangerous and perhaps more prevalent here in the post-COVID world. So awakening is just the general term for a person who starts questioning things, pulling back layers, discovering truth, and then ideally taking that information and making changes, positive changes in their own personal life, and then sharing that information with other people. I mean, that would sum up the great work that we're all here to do, end suffering and slavery. But first, one person needs to come to terms with the reality that surrounds them and their environment, sort through all of their shadow work, trauma, paradigms, and then as quickly as they can digest that, start sharing it with others. It's by no means necessary to reach perfection, whatever that would be, but at a point where you understand a concept, share that with other people. So, as Passio laments very frequently, he has a great problem with the New Age movement, which, as I've mentioned in previous videos, is surprisingly, well, not surprisingly, but interestingly, how I got into my spiritual awakening. Lucky for myself, I didn't stop there. So whereas the New Age might focus on only the good vibe sorts of information, the light occult, so to speak, it completely eschews the dark occultism, and that in and of itself is an intentional trap, because without understanding the dark hidden knowledge of what's really happening, no one's going to take actions beyond self-serving principles regarding the light occultism, or if nothing else, they won't even know it, so that they can share that information to end the real issue. A lot of the light occultism that I'm referring to with the New Age that I got into was regarding bettering oneself, bettering one's business, how to succeed in the world, but it's focused mainly financial at the end of the day, the law of attraction, when it's really only self-serving. So, the partial awakening. And Passio now, at this point, he took a hiatus again. I'm a few years into it, and he's come back very vitriolic, because all he sees is a decline, not an increase or an incline or an inclination of more people actually awakening. And the quote that he says time and time again, that's credited to Buddha, is there are only two mistakes one can make along the path to truth. One is not starting, which sums up the vast majority of people who are unwilling to begin any sort of path to truth. One is not starting and the other is not going far enough. And this is my point of contention with other people that are waking up, think that they know what's going on, and I will grant them that they understand a piece or a facet of it, but until they understand the totality, and I would define the totality simply as coming to terms with the fact that all authority is slavery, that our inherent system of governance everywhere is slavery, and that the only way out of this is an adherence to natural law, by which we can free ourselves. Until they understand that, they are not fully awake, or at least fully apprised of the information that would constitute the ability to take the actions to free oneself and then free other people. Because to only have personal freedom is not enough. It is all about everyone, the entire human population, removing itself, unshackling itself from slavery. So, embedded in this issue are some of the people that I know, or that you come into contact with. Like attracts like. Other people are waking up, you talk to them, so you feel like more people are waking up, but they're only learning about one issue, and it's usually an issue to which they were already ascribing their interest. In other words, it could just be politically that they're waking up. It could just be through food, understanding the education system, understanding the Fed and the banking system, but not putting all the pieces together, and certainly not going all the way to tear down every single paradigm to which they identify in order to get to that base understanding of what's truly happening. So this would be, in my mind, a false awakening in which they would plateau or stop along the path of understanding for a long period of time, not coming to terms and accepting or willing to continue to look into the vast extent, the complete long view of history of what has really transpired, again, in order to integrate it all into the path of truth, and then to help other people understand that. So, not going far enough, and the New Age will trap you with that by exposing a piece of the occultism, but not the entire story. The other issue regarding the partial awakening is the continuance to externalize one's salvation to something beyond oneself. So, this could be seen within the Christian religion as waiting for the Messiah to return. Granted, humans have been around a lot longer than the age of Jesus, and we have never been saved before and still haven't in the last 2,000 years, so it would beg the question, for one, what are we really waiting for? Well, if you can cook up a story about this gentleman, the teachings of morality notwithstanding, Jesus' teachings of morality notwithstanding, just the premise of the return, right? It keeps being put out there, well, more or less when things get bad again, he'll come back. Things have been really bad and he didn't come back. Things are terrible right now. How much suffering do you think he would want to see? No, what is really wanted by Trog, by nature, is people to come to terms with what natural law is and make the change themselves and take the action through free will to express the understanding of do no harm, so that we may bring in our own freedom. Again, natural law, summed up very simply, is the degree of morality determines the degree of freedom. So if you have more immorality, more bad things happening in the entire world, it's not just you, then more slavery or less freedom will be generated in the aggregate. And you turn it around. The more moral the action, the more free you are. That's what we're waiting. So each person has to unlock that for themselves. Okay, the Messiah is just one example. The other one that has become a little bit more popular is the Great Solar Flash. Again, this is externalizing the desire or hope or belief that there will be some outside catalyst by which to propel us into this age of awakening. And I will not deny that some sort of cataclysmic event would not increase the propensity for people to come to terms with truth. But if the morality has not been taught and is not baked into their psyche, then we will just return to our past actions. It will be a true revolution, a bloody revolution, but again, just coming back around. And there'll just be fewer people post-cataclysm. As Mark has just recently pointed out again, people are waiting for the apocalypse, but the apocalypse just means the great unveiling. That has already happened. What we're waiting on now is Armageddon. If we choose, through our understanding, through discovery of truth, to accept what natural law is and integrate truth into our lives and morality, then in fact we will usher in a wave of freedom. And if we don't, we will very likely usher in our own demise of the human race. That was a heck of a little diatribe. Go back and listen to it. If you want to get a real flavor, even 5 years ago, check out Mark Passio's podcast at episode 196. More on this to come.